Well, speaking of bad body language, this next individual portrays the worst of body language possible. But if you guys have been living under a rock, Antonio Brown once again had a meltdown. Stop me if you heard this before, right? But the gist of it is Antonio Brown and the Buccaneers are playing the Jets on Sunday, and in the middle of the third quarter, Antonio Brown could be seen having a conversation with Mike Evans, decides to take off his jersey, his helmet, his shirt, throw it into the stands, and then runs off the field giving the deuces sign to the New York Jets crowd. After the game, Bruce Arians basically said he's not a Buccaneer anymore, and as the days have gone by, we've heard different stories about how there was some friction on the sideline where Bruce Arians wanted him to go back in the game. Antonio Brown decided not to go back in the game. And at that point, Bruce Arians said, "Get out of my face," or whatever he said, "Get out." And Antonio Brown took that literally and took everything off and went off the field. He got out, in a sense. But you know, we all saw this. We all laughed at it. We all had our jokes about it. But there is, you know, I think a serious situation that needs to be discussed here. I want to turn the floor over to you real quick. You know, what was your impressions when you saw this? What's your thoughts on what's happening? And just give me your overall, impression of what AB is and what he is now.
So, obviously, seeing the video and stuff, like, I was all aboard the clown train. I'm like, look at this guy. He's having another mental breakdown. We knew this was going to happen at some point. It took a little bit longer than I think we all expected. It seemed like last year, you know, Tom Brady down there kind of got to him, and he seemed like he had turned a little bit of a corner in terms of, you know, his outbursts, you know, him being a quote-unquote diva receiver and all that. And then he pulls this stunt. I don't think I've ever seen anybody. I don't think I've seen anything like this in any sport where they have just melted down so much where, dude, the security didn't even know who he was, and they were ready to tackle him.
I wish that would have happened so bad. That would have been the perfect cherry on top. Like, he quits, and then somebody tackles him immediately.
And, like, you just see security, like, what's this guy? There's a fan on the field. Like,
well, did you hear the story about how he ran off the field and ran immediately to a New Jersey State Trooper?
Yes.
In his football pants, and said, "Hey, could you please give me a ride to the airport?" And they're like, "Of course not, you idiot. We're not going to do that."
Who are you? Like, yeah, like, who the heck are you? Like, it was just like something I've never seen any at all. I mean, the game was ongoing, and the dude's running in the end zone across the field. Like, complete clown show. And to be honest with you, we knew this was coming at some point. At some point, he was going to have a mental breakdown and was going to go off the deep end, you know, all over the place. And, you know, to start, you know, part of me is like, if the dude's saying he can't play, why is the coach trying to force him to go into the game? That's what I want to know. If that story's true, why?
Let me give you some more context on that. So on the Pat McAfee show, and Skip Bayless also has some information to the Buccaneers locker room. Here's what happened. Apparently in the first half, Tom Brady was going to Gronk quite heavily, and because for the most part Gronk had the preferable matchup. They had a smaller linebacker on him, sometimes a safety on him, and he was just basically getting wide open, and the ball was being thrown to him the whole first half. In the middle of the second quarter, Antonio Brown goes up to Brady and says, "Why aren't you throwing me the football? Are you going back to your boy?" I mean, that's basically how it's being conveyed. And at that point, Brady just was like, "Dude, what are you talking about? Are you serious right now? We can't be doing this right now, you know?" Third quarter comes back around, and that's when Antonio Brown starts pouting and essentially saying, "Well, if he's not throwing me the football, I'm not going back in the game." And Bruce Arians is like, "Well, listen, we need you out there. Can you please get out there?" He still kept pouting, and that's when everything blew up.
Yeah, I mean, if he was really hurt, which, I mean, with him running off the field like that, I didn't see any signs of his ankle or his foot being hurt. Yeah. So you know, that's another topic we can talk about. But this dude needs, like, serious mental health, and how he has not been released by the team. And I know we're going to get into this. You know, you're going to get into it in a little bit here, but like, the dude needs to be out of the NFL because he's like a child right now. He's acting like a child, and a child who's spoiled and gets everything he wants. So if another team's going to come in and pick him up and give him his money and let him play, the dude's never going to change or get better or work on himself or you know try to fix himself as a human being, not even as a football player, as a human being. But I really believe that he needs some professional help before this gets worse. And I'm not going to say it, but you know what worse is in this situation, and he needs it, and he hasn't been the same. I mean, I know he was the diva before the Vontaze Burfict hit, but after that, like, it came out, like, you know, his whole breakdown about the helmet in Oakland. I think it was Oakland still at the time, and you know, his mental breakdown with that ended up getting him released there. He had a whole bunch of sexual assault allegations. He came to New England, that came out. He got cut, was out of the league for a year. came back. I think it was probably halfway last year when the Bucs picked him up. To play with Brady down. That Brady picked him up. I mean, it was essentially Brady, vouching for him at that point. And I just don't know how anybody can vouch for him at this point and not just say what needs to be said and said, you need to work on yourself. You need some help before this gets any worse, because I don't want to be here for that. And I don't think anybody wants to see that. And, personally for him as a human, I really hope he does get the help he needs to correct this, to be a better father for his kids, to be there for his family and all that. And if somebody's just going to come out and pay him the money and let him get away with this behavior, nothing's going to change.
Well, here, let me start with this. And I want to say this as delicately as possible because, in today's day and age, I know, right? Exactly. Just by saying that,
Yeah.
it's going to be a hot take. But mental health's a real thing. If you need the help, I mean, it's so serious. It's something that, me coming from a little bit of an older generation, maybe I sometimes don't understand it. But as I learn more about it, I try my best to have compassion and try to see their side of the picture. And if you do have mental health issues, get the help you need.
Absolutely.
However,
absolutely, and he needs to. In my opinion, he needs to. And I wish somebody close to him would just be like, "Hey, you need," and try to get through to him in that way to where he finally makes that choice. Because unfortunately, like getting mental health help like that, it only works if the individual wants it, and he's got to make the decision to do it. And that's where somebody's got to come in. And like somebody like Tom Brady could be a perfect person to be like, "Hey, like chill out, like." If they don't release him, we were talking offline about this, like somebody releases him, another team picks him up for the playoff run, then like that screws the Buccaneers. So like, fine, keep him on the payroll and just help him get the help that he needs so he can work on himself and improve himself, because I think that's truly what needs to happen given the track record that we've seen over the last 3 years with him.
Yeah, and I think two things can be true. I do believe he needs the help, and I believe, he needs to have somebody sit down with him and talk about just, it's not normal behavior what he's doing. He definitely needs some mental health help, right? But I think the other part of this is maybe he's just a bad dude, man. Like, I'm so sick and tired of people just dancing around this subject. Both of these things can be true. He could be a bad shit dude, and he needs some mental help right now. The compassion and the empathy part, I mean, that's something that I just don't have anymore for AB. I'm sorry. I know Tom Brady won on, the post-game show and said we should have empathy and compassion. But dude, like, what about the compassion for the people that Antonio Brown has abused? Think about over all the years that he's either emotionally abused, there's women that said they physically abused him. There's people that he hasn't paid, taking money out of their mouths. Like, what about those people and their, hardships and compassion for those folks? And that's just something that Antonio Brown has never shown to somebody else. So why am I being asked to show him compassion? And I get it. It's a bigger issue with mental health. And in today's day and age, that's the big eraser we can use to whitewash a lot of this stuff, right? But at some point, man, like I'm so sick and tired of this dude. And if he doesn't want the help, then I'm sorry, I've got no compassion for you. If you can't understand that this is not normal behavior and you got to sit down and have a conversation with somebody, then I'm just gonna call for what it is. Maybe you need the help, but you're just a bad dude. You're a shit person,
Yeah, and like you said, both can be true here. And people can only do so much to help somebody. If somebody doesn't want to make that decision for themselves, then it's without sounding ignorant here, you're a lost cause at that point. Like you really, it starts with the individual, and they need to make that decision for themselves with help from other people. Sure. I mean, like I said, Tom Brady went off about be empathetic of him and all this and that. It's like, well, Tom, why don't you try to push this dude who you call your friend? You invited him into your house. I don't know if he did in Tampa Bay, but he did it in New England. Like, why don't you try to like get through to him and try to push it? I'm not faulting Tom Brady for this, but like he seems like the perfect support resource for Antonio Brown to get the help that he needs if he wants it. If he doesn't want it, then at some point you got to cut your losses as an individual and as an organization in the NFL.
Well,
I'm not blaming Brady for this. I'm not blaming Brady for this.
No,
don't.
And I kind of am a little bit. I think with Brady and who he is, like the dude's all about winning. Maybe to a fault. He with the big shiny carrot of winning the Super Bowl at the end of it, he just kept pushing this dude into something that maybe he shouldn't be doing. Maybe Antonio Brown shouldn't be on a football field at this moment. He should be talking to somebody that is a professional and can help him out. But I think from the Buccaneers and the Brady side of this thing, like, listen, this was bound to happen eventually. It's a miracle they kept them together for a year and a half. You know what I'm saying? Like, the fact that they got a Super Bowl win out of him and they got him to the Super Bowl and he contributed with a really key big touchdown play against Tyrann Mathieu, one that I always remember, the way he ran that out route. I mean, that's something that I guess is a win in the book of Brady and the Buccaneers. They kept him together for a year and a half, but eventually we knew this was going to happen, and it all started to unravel. And it's just sad at the end of the day. Antonio Brown is somebody now, I think, with what he displayed and that lasting image of us, of seeing him run off the field like that, it's probably going to cost him the Hall of Fame. Like, to be honest with you, he is a Hall of Fame level talent, and the way he was tracking for a while, he was going to get in. And I think with the next couple of years in Tampa Bay with Tom Brady, he probably would have solidified that case. But now, there's absolutely no way in hell that lasting image of you running off the field shirtless is going to allow you to get into the Hall of Fame. And that's just sad, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, and like you said, he's an incredible talent. I mean, I'll never forget when I think he kicked the punter on a punt return back with the Steelers. Yeah, like he did that, and like he was an insane talent. He was an insane fantasy football talent. He helped me win a fantasy football title back, and I think it was one of his last years in Pittsburgh. So like, insane talent. He very well could be a bad dude. I think he does need some help, and not to beat on it, but like, where's the union? The union should be helping him out at this point. If the teams aren't going to do it, where's the union being like, hey, here's a resource for you. Why don't you get some help? And if he doesn't want it, at that point, like, there's nothing you can do as a support or a resource for this individual. There's nothing else you could do. It's gotta, like I said few times already, it's got to start with him. If he doesn't want it, he clearly doesn't look like he wants it. I mean, he was sitting courtside for the Nets game, a day after, and sitting in the back of his Uber or whatever, his ride after the game, letting the guy go live on Instagram with Antonio Brown in the backseat. That doesn't seem like a smart decision either. So like, it was bound to happen, and it's too bad. And I just hope that he either gets the help he needs, or no other team continues to enable him to continue with this behavior. I personally think his career is over in the NFL after that display.
I wouldn't put it past an NFL team. We'll get to that in a second. But to round out that Hall of Fame topic, I mean, 2013 had 110 receptions. 2014, 129 receptions. 2015, 136 receptions. 2016, 106. 2017, 101. 2018, 104. 2019 in New England, he had 4 receptions. 2020, he had 45 with Tampa Bay, and then in 2021, most of them when he was hurt, he had 42. But I mean, that stretch with 129, 136, 106. I mean, that is insane. That's 6 years of 110-ish on average receptions. I mean, that is Hall of Fame in itself. But I think with how his career has ended up, with the fact that he quit on the Raiders, the fact that he, essentially talked his way out of town in New England, and basically not quitting on the Buccaneers and Tom Brady, I think that's going to come back to bite him big time. And then finally, the whole it's one thing to quit, and then the optics of it would be fine if he had a meltdown, he lost his shit, and then he immediately went to some sort of rehab facility, right? Or he went to some sort of therapist and started talking to him, right? This dude is out there literally within 24 hours of quitting on the NFL, dropping a single, right? Promoting that at the Nets game, wearing just all kinds of blinged out shit on the sideline, and just promoting crap products on his Instagram page. And I'm thinking to myself, is this a meltdown or is this really all planned? I hate to sound cynical, but I think he is that insane enough to be all right, well, I'm going to do this. It's going to bring a lot of exposure, and then I'm going to drop my single. You know what I'm saying? It's hard for me to, provide that level of empathy and compassion and understanding with his mental health issues when he seems to have this elaborate plan and scheme already worked out at the end of it once he did what he did.
Absolutely. And, the only other time I can think of somebody quitting on their team in the middle of a game, I think, was Vontae Davis up in Buffalo.
I used to do it at halftime. At halftime,
he did it at halftime. He didn't make a he didn't make a circus out of it, and he retired. He never played again in the NFL. Yeah. So that was his I'm out. I'm done. This isn't for me. I'm done. And he, he walked away. You haven't heard from him since. He's not out. Like you said, dropping his rap single on Instagram and promoting trash products.
It's pretty bad.
I won't even listen to it, to be honest with you. I don't even have any interest in listening to it. But and just reading some of I did read some of like the comments on his Instagram page, and the amount of support that this dude is getting for his behavior is so concerning. Not for him, but like for the people he caters to. It's like, how can you support this dude's behavior like this? For me as a human, I can't like compute it logically. I can't do it. It's like this dude quit on his team, threw a shirt in the stands, went off the field shirtless in the middle of a game while plays were going on, peacing out to the crowd, to the point where the security was going to tackle him because they didn't even know who he was. And I'm just like, how can you support this dude? For me, in my head, I can't compute it. I can't make logical sense of it. It just doesn't. It's just, like you said, it's sad because of the talent that he has and the fact that he was such a beast earlier in his career. And, it's come to this, and it's been, outside of him coming in and helping contribute to a Super Bowl win, the last 3-4 years of his career have been an absolute train wreck.